Hi, I'm Gina Chen, and I'm the author of Violet Made of Thorns. And this book is about a prophet who tells lies and the cursed prince she gets entangled with, and the prophecy that binds them together.
Gina Chen is the Chinese-American author of Violet Made of Thorns, a young adult book set to debut this summer. Violet Made of Thorns features a prophet who influences the royal court she works for with her lies. When she is ordered to falsify the prince's love story, she unleashes a curse that dooms the entire kingdom. Hi, I'm Gemma and welcome to the Red Carpet. Gina is here to talk to us about her book today. Hi Gina, thank you for being here with us.
Hi, I'm super excited to be here.
And I'm excited to have you. This is your debut book, and we follow the story of Violet, a seer who thinks she's the bad guy. I, for one, love a villain origin story. Can you tell us more about your main character Violet and the journey she goes on?
So my main character, Violet, is a seer who dreams of prophecies of the future. And she was originally a street rat, so she kind of climbed her way to the top of the kingdom. And she is very cynical because of it, because she's seen the difference between the upper echelons of the kingdom versus the slums she grew up in. And she's seen what it takes to get up there. And it's not really a fairy tale story to climb up there. To climb up there, you have to be willing to be selfish, you have to be willing to lie, and you have to be greedy. It's the greedy people who win in this world. So she's very jaded about that. And then she becomes the subject of a prophecy that may or may not hinge on true love, which is kind of which is sort of the sort of Disney flavor of prophecy you might see in those kinds of fairy tales. But what if someone like her, is the heroine of that prophecy, or maybe the villain? So that's her journey that she goes on.
In your story, the main character Violet works for the king as a seer who is forced to lie about a prophecy that puts the story into motion. She's sort of an anti-hero, so why did you decide to write about the villain?
So for me, when I think of the term anti-hero, I actually think more of the hero part than the villain part. I think of Violet's struggles to become a hero based on everyone's expectations of her, versus some forces that might also want her to be the villain. I actually think a lot about, we used to call Batman an anti-hero, but we recognize that Batman is a hero, but it's about his struggles to do good despite his cynicism, despite the world being against him. And that's also the way I see Violet, someone who struggles against her own cynicism to have faith in the world, to try to fix this world.
Her struggles were one of the reasons why I actually really love her, just because she was torn between, good and bad. But these are the same struggles that we go through. So I really related to that.
I'm so glad.
The male lead, Cyrus, is also not the stereotypical love interest. How did you bring him to life?
So it's really funny that I think, looking at a lot of current love interests across media, we're creating a lot of love interests that I guess are kind of a little perfect, that they're like dreamy sort of boyfriend types. But I think Cyrus should, have a lot of problems on his own. I think that's the realistic part about it, that they maybe know a little too much about each other. And if you know a little too much about each other, you know your worst sides as well, right? So I think Cyrus and Violet are kind of made for each other in that way, at least, in that they they can't help but play off each other. So I kind of crafted him specifically to go against Violet because they know each other so well. Yeah.
I agree. I love their animosity during the book. So one of your pitches was, I can fix her versus I can make him worse vibes. Why this take on the romance?
So what I actually like about some kind of romances is that it's not necessarily, I acknowledge that it's not the healthiest romance in the world, maybe, because, she makes him worse. That's in the pitch that I'm doing. But I think that these relationships happen. Like the one of the things I like to say is that we don't necessarily make good choices for ourselves. We see the bad choice, we will make the bad choice. We see the bad boy, we choose the bad boy. We do that. Even if it's Cyrus is the one who is, the good boy in this instance. We see him and, well, Violet sees him and she's like, maybe I just want to ruin his life a little. We've also felt that way about certain people. I mean, maybe we don't actually, I hope we don't actually act on it, but sometimes you see people and you're like, I don't like them. I just kind of wish their day was kind of bad. And it's human. It's a little selfish. I hope you don't actually ruin their day, but I think it's very relatable. Violet will ruin someone's day for you.
A girl after my own heart. So you used to dislike writing, but now you're an author.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I think I definitely have always loved telling stories. I remember being in third grade and like doing Pokemon comics and Neopet comics. And then I did write a lot of fiction in middle school, but then in high school, because of the curriculum, there was no fiction writing at all, and it was only essay writing, and I was terrible at it. I would never, ever finish an essay. So I thought I hated writing. And it wasn't until I got into fan fiction, which I still kind of struggled with actually writing the stuff out because my brain is much more visual than it is good at creating prose. But I slowly got into it, and as I was sharing these stories, this fan fiction to readers online, and they were responding to it, it was just so like the feeling I don't know how to describe the feeling because it's just when you realize that you've like touched people around the world, you can relate to people around the world. There were readers coming in from like the Philippines and Indonesia and Malaysia. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe people around the world are reading my stories. That's amazing. And that the words I was writing had power. And then I think it's just that feeling that it infuses it that made me realize, oh, I actually really love sharing stories with people so much. I'm a lifelong reader, so I actually do love words. So even though I struggle a little bit with actually creating the words out, I do love creating like the poetic rhythm of words and just dealing with that medium. Yeah.
I'm so glad that you've gotten here on your journey because that means I get to read your words.
Yes.
So the book does feature magic. How did you create this world?
For this one, I think I really did just mash up a bunch of fairy tales and fairy tale media in my brain. It was very interesting creating this world because I hadn't actually had to world build for any of my stories before. So way back in the first draft, this is actually all set on some island boarding school, which I then recycled for a short story instead. And then it only slowly became a fairy tale kingdom. And then with a terrible magical forest out there. So I think my biggest inspirations were Uprooted, honestly, still Shrek, things like Gallivant, things like honestly, I think like a lot of this stuff has just been living in my brain for years, and I just kind of spat it out on the page.
Well, you've had literary influences. Were there any cultural influences?
So the place where Violet grew up, the Moon District, is loosely based on a Chinatowns, primarily the San Francisco Chinatown, actually. And while it's not a large part of her story, I think it's important to note that Violet is a member of the diaspora. She was actually born in the Kingdom of Albany, but the most people in the Moon District are from an overseas kingdom called Yue. They are mostly working class, specifically mostly working class immigrants. There's specifically some distinctions between the class of Yue. And while it's not a major part of the story, I think it's important to show what kind of immigration is happening in this kingdom. It's not only from Yue, but there's also other kingdoms nearby, like Balaka, which plays a major part of the story, and how this kind of melting pot capital city is creating the political environment at that time.
How much of yourself did you write into the story?
I like to think of Violet as someone I could have been as a teenager, if I met certain people or made certain decisions. If I think I would like to mentor someone like Violet now if I met her. That's how I feel toward her. Um, I don't think I was quite so frustrated as and angry as she is, but I think I brought those inner feelings out from when I was a teen, things that lived in my brain that I felt like I couldn't really tell anyone. And Violet is the one who maybe shouts those thoughts the loudest. So that's how we connect.
Okay, so your book is not yet published. How are you feeling?
Oh, I feel like everything is happening all at once in these last, it's almost like 3 months left now. I think what most people don't know about authors is that we've had these deals for a year or two. So we've been waiting for that to count down for so long. And for very long stretches of time, nothing happens. And then at the very end, everything happens. And you're like 2 years removed from when you finished writing the book. So that's always very funny. So I feel like I don't even remember finishing this book anymore. um, it was just so long ago. I'm like, oh, I've moved on to writing other books, other stories. So I think that's like really funny author space to be in, because right now I'm not thinking about this book at all. I'm thinking about completely other things. Yeah.
Have you received a lot of support from the book community so far?
Oh, so much support. I did not realize how much support. It's been crazy. I think like right from when I announced, people were really excited for my book, and I was very confused because I was just a regular person, and then I came online and was like, "Oh, I'm so excited for your book." I'm like, "How do you even know who I am?" So, but there's been so much support across bloggers and booksellers and librarians, and it's been absolutely amazing. I'm so glad that people want to read a book about an anti-heroine who I have constantly said is a trash fire. So that's very exciting for me.
What else are you excited for readers to experience in the book?
So as the author of the book, I know all the plot twists of the book, so I don't actually think of them as plot twists. But whenever people say, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did that," I'm like, "Oh right, they don't know that I wrote all those little twisty turns." I'm like, "Oh yes, thank you." I'm most excited, I think, for people to get to the ball or what happens after the ball, because I feel like everything sort of, oh, this is like a nice jaunty little fairy tale, and then you get to the stuff after the ball, and you're like, oh. So that's what I'm excited for.
Having read the book, I confirm after the ball, I was like, what is going on? I love it. I'm here for this. Gotta keep reading. Is there anything you want readers to take away?
For me, when I put a story out into the world, I believe it goes into the reader's hands. So I try not to think about too much about what readers are taking out of it, like individually, because I think that's for them to personally experience with my book, whether it's good or bad. But I hope the people who have not normally seen themselves in books, can see themselves in Violet, and it doesn't. Not everyone has to relate to her. I think that's the whole point of why I wrote this book. That she was, I wrote her because I couldn't relate to a lot of other characters. So I wrote specifically her for, the people like me who wanted someone a little angrier about being the hero, or trying to be the hero, I guess. So necessarily, she's not going to be relatable to everyone, but that's okay.
Okay, so I know you're a huge K-pop fan. Do you have any favorite groups?
Well, so it's really funny. I've been a K-pop fan since 2008, and I just kind of sort of followed the news like a lot. So I knew a lot about everything. So it's not like it was less like current times when you kind of just like choose one group to go all the way to put all your energy in. But like over the pandemic, I accidentally got like really into EXO and all of the SM groups like way more, which is funny because I followed them throughout their career, but I was like, oh, I'm not going to get into them. And then I got really into, that's how you get into them. 9 years later, you get really into them. Yeah.
Did any of your biases influence your writing or characters?
So no, but I do think there is some sort of unconscious thing going on because my friends make fun of this about me now. That so some people that I have liked historically is Soo Eun-guk, Eric Nam, and Ben Bacon. And there's a line in Violet where Violet gets really angry about Cyrus's slightly too big ears. And then my friends pointed out, hey, Gina, you know all those guys you used to like, what do they all have in common? And I'm like, oh my God. So, maybe there's some unconscious things going on there.
Did you have any songs or playlists that you listened to during your writing process?
I don't actually listen to too many songs while I'm writing itself, but during when I like to make playlists, I like to make them with Yoonha, Seori, and Hatfelt. I love Hatfelt, former Wonder Girl. And those are all very, I feel, Violet songs, especially Hatfelt.
Excellent choices. Right, so your new book, Violet Made of Thorns, is greatly anticipated. Can you tease the audience with something from the book?
So there is a great line of dialogue that Violet says, where she says, figure out what you want. Figure out what you want so I can ruin you properly, which maybe encompasses what the book and their romances is all about.
Do you have any upcoming works?
So I have book 2 of Violet that I'm working on, and that will finish off the duology.
And I am so excited for it. So where can we find your book for purchase once it comes out?
You can find them at any retail stores that sells books or any indies. You can find all the links on my website, actualgina.com. And there's going to be translations that I have listed out on my website as well, so you can buy them worldwide. And hopefully it is available in your country.
And where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at also actualgina. And yeah, that's where I am.
Thank you so much for being here with us today, Gina. I'm so excited for the book to come out. I'm sure our viewers will be just as enthralled as I was when following Violet's morally gray journey.
Thank you for having me. This was a really great interview. I got to say some really silly things that I haven't been able to say before, so that was really fun.
My guest today has been author Gina Chen with her book, Violet Made of Thorns, available for purchase wherever books are sold. I'm Gemma for the Kpop-TV Entertainment Network, and I'll see you next time.